Take 3.
Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
It's the preview show, and this week it's the Cumbrian Derby as our friends from down the coast make the long journey up to the true north. Can the Blues kickstart their season with a win over Barrow, or will the Bluebirds keep their own unbeaten start to the season going? We look ahead to the big clash at Brunton Park.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run. The old one too.
We're back, Mike. Three takes to do the intro. That was a badly written intro, the original one I put down there.
God, who wrote that?
I know, what an idiot. I tried to squeeze far too much into it, but there you go. It's here very early in the season, the first Cumbrian Derby of the season. We'll discuss our thoughts on the merits of calling it a derby later on, I think. But it's a big game, isn't it? I think it's probably fair to say.
Yeah, I think it's. I think certainly since the defeat at Gillingham, the general feel of it, I think it's bigger than we actually anticipated when the fixtures came out in a few ways. But yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully, get 3 points on the board and really kickstart our season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be doing that. Obviously, as part of that, we'll be speaking to an opposition fan, which will be coming soon in the Behind Enemy Lines section. Before we get going, just a few little shout outs and updates. EFL Fantasy League, obviously remember to get your teams ready for this weekend. Anyone who put John Mellish in last weekend got 10 points, so well done to you. If you put Charlie Wyke in like me as well, you didn't get much for that, unfortunately. But, you know, Sammy Smodics, he scored me a few points, and I was a bit worried because I thought he was going to leave Blackburn, but he came off the bench and scored a goal, so I was quite pleased with that. I think I'm slap bang middle of the mid-table, I think. So far, I can't remember who's top, but yeah, there's a few names that I recognise that are doing quite well. So, well done to you. Obviously, a reminder as well that our sponsor this season is CUOSC, or the Carlisle United Sports Trust, as it will be soon known. Do some fantastic stuff with the club. Do CUOSC. You know, they've been working together with the Piatics since they've come in and making some really big changes around the club. This weekend they've got their members meeting. If you haven't already, get yourself a ticket before then. The Piatics are going to be in attendance as well. They're actually members of CUOSC, so they're going to be attending as members as well as doing a little Q&A as well, I think, after that. So, well worth getting it for that. So get your tickets. If you haven't joined, go to the website cuosc.org.uk and sign up. You get your 10% discount in the club shop, and you also get priority for cup and big away game tickets after season ticket holders. So there you go. If you want to contact us, you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. Some great stuff on there. Absolutely great stuff. At Brunton Bugle. Same on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. You can find us there. And you can email us, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. We've had a few emails in recently, so thank you very much for them. If you've got your correspondence, get them coming in. If you've got any questions you want us to talk about on the show or things like that, just let us know. Just get in contact with us. We really, really like some of the new ideas people have put forward to us. And just another reminder, and just for Regan, so we can make a note of this, we're 3 minutes 50 seconds in. Ko-fi, we have a Ko-fi now, so this is for people who want to just tip us a little bit of money, if they're really enjoying the pod. We've had a few in so far. I really, really appreciate it. This is not as demanding it and not begging as old Regan said, but people had asked, how can you do it? So if you want to just give us the price for a pint or something like that, it helps cover towards some of our studio costs and hosting costs and things like that. A little bit of equipment too, which obviously the money from CUOSC will help for as well. So if you want to do that, you can find us on Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com/Brunton Bugle. So that's Ko-fi for Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Brunton Bugle. Right. Should we get into Behind Enemy Lines? Or do you want to do Dan's question first?
Yeah, go on.
This is a new feature that Dan came up with. It's called Under 5. So basically, he's going to give us 3 clues to a player who's made under 5 appearances for the Blues. Okay? And the clues get progressively easier. So the first clue is obviously quite tough. Second clue, not as tough. Third clue, tougher. And if you get it on the first one, you get 3 points. Second one, 2 points. Third one, 1 point. Obviously, if you don't get it at all, then no points. So, are you ready for it, Mike?
Yeah, go on.
Right, so let's get the clues. Last time out, I think I managed to get 1 point. I think I got it on the last guess. It was Phil Gulliver was the one, which that's a real blast from the past, that one, but there you go. Right, here's clue number 1 from Dan.
I came on loan to Carlisle from a club within the M25.
That could be anyone. I'm going to go, what's his name that we had on loan from Charlton who was awful? Kevin Feely, was it?
Kevin Feely, not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. I wonder, that's quite. I'm tempted to go for the same because I'm thinking we're playing Barrow this weekend and Kevin Feely's brother plays for Barrow, and I wonder if that's the little link. The only other player I was thinking was it could be Tommy Black from Arsenal. No, I'm gonna with you. I'm gonna go Kevin Feely on my first guess. So Kevin Feely is my first guess. So let's have clue number 2.
I only played 2 games during this loan, partly because I received a red card in the second of those appearances.
Oh, did Feely get sent off?
I don't remember him being sent off.
No, I don't either. Oh, wow. I mean, didn't get sent off, did he, either? I'm just thinking he was the only one I can think of.
Well, because I was thinking as well, I think Tom Cruise played less than 5 games, but he didn't get sent off.
I think he played just over 5 games.
Oh, did he?
Possibly.
Okay.
I think he played more than you'd think. I'm tempted to stick with Kevin Feely for now. I'm not...
Yeah.
I can't really think it.
The third clue might
The third clue's
solve
give
it
it away. Yeah, let's see. So let's go for clue number 3.
I started my career at Crystal Palace, but that is not the team that I came on loan from when I joined Carlisle.
Oh, I don't think it is Kevin Feely then.
No.
Started his career at Crystal Palace. Trying to think who it would be.
No, I'm struggling with this one. It's the red card's completely thrown me off.
Yeah, it really has actually. I think Dan might have actually defeated us here. I don't want too much silence to be in. I don't want too much of us thinking because it takes up time of the recording. Let's just think of a few other clubs quickly while we're here. I don't think we've had one from Fulham or Chelsea.
I think we've had Millwall.
No, Chelsea.
I think
Millwall.
we've had some random ones from Millwall, but
Chris Twardek came from Millwall, but I think he played more than that. I'm sure. I can't think of one from Spurs or from.
the only
Arsenal.
Chelsea one I can think of is Harry Worley, and it's not him.
No, he played one.
Yeah.
So let's stick with Kevin Feely. I genuinely can't think of it else, but we're going with Kevin Feely for this one. So let's see what the answer is to this week's under fives question.
The answer is Gary Borrowdale. Joined us on loan from QPR, made his debut in the 3-0 defeat at Huddersfield when we actually got to Wembley. Then he got sent off in the league game at Southampton when we got beat 1-0. I think Ricky Lambert scored that day. And never played for us again.
Oh, that's really you to that, because I was at that game. I was at both of those games. I was at the game at Southampton. I was working in the media team at that time. I remember when he got sent off, oh, this is going to be a long, long day, this. And yeah, like you said, he just disappeared. But yeah,
is he actually Cumbrian as well? Did I imagine that?
No, he just got a name that sounds Cumbrian. But no,
okay.
Gary Borrowdale, with him, what I remember about him was the thing that threw me was that I was expecting him to be a youngster. And I think by the time we had him on loan, he was in his late 20s, I think, wasn't he, from QPR? So that was a good one there, Dan. Fair play.
Yeah.
You've caught us both out. You've won this week. That's 3 points for you. Yep. So there you go. If you were joining along at home, let us know if you actually managed to get that right. I'm sure there's probably a few of you out there who worked out from the red card answer, I think, on that one. Right. Okay. So that's sort of interesting stuff. I don't think there's any news to cover this week. The only thing was that fan engagement thing that the club's come out top again, haven't they? In the
second.
Second, sorry, come out one of the top teams. So they got a gold award, didn't they? I think it's who's come out on top. Is it Exeter? I think, or is it
Do you know what? I didn't even have a look at who came top.
You know, I'm sure it's someone like that. Exeter right up there with us. I think Lincoln are as well. So, no, fantastic news for the club that they've come out on top of that again. You know, can't doubt over the last few years, you know, even before the Patricks came in, that the engagement has improved so much, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a massive difference to what it used to be like. So well done to the club for that. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to pick up in terms of news. So let's go into Behind Enemy Lines in a sec. So, yes, this week I spoke to Freya from the excellent BBC Radio Cumbria Barrow Social podcast. That's the Barrow version of the Carlisle Social. We had Freya on a couple of years ago as well, I think, as well. Really knowledgeable on all things Barrow. What do we talk about? I talked a bit about the summer departure of Pete Wild and the fallout from missing out on the playoffs on the final day. A little bit about how Stephen Clemens has settled in as well. And obviously we talked a bit about Harrison Neal and how he did when he was at Hawker Street for his loan spell there. So after this little break, I'll be back to talk to Freya, and then we'll be back for part 2 later on.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, it's time for Behind Enemy Lines, where we speak to an opposition fan about their team ahead of the big game against the Blues this weekend. And this weekend it is one of the bigger ones this season, of course. It is the Cumbrian Derby. You know, how seriously everyone takes that as a derby, I don't know these days. But we've got Freya from the BBC Radio Cumbria Barrow Social podcast to speak to us today. Freya, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I think you guys have had a slightly better start to the season we have, which kind of brings me quite nicely on to that. Let's get into the first question then. I mean, it's been a bit of a summer of change, hasn't it, for the Bluebirds after a disappointment of missing out on the playoffs on the final day of the previous campaign. You must be pretty pleased with how things have gone in the first 2 games, though.
Yeah, I mean, we can't have asked for a better start, really. So I was quite vocal through the summer about how I disagreed with the kind of changes that were made through the summer, and you know, getting rid of Wild. I could see the arguments for and against, but you know, me personally, I would have given him another crack at it. I think, you know, there was a lot of talk about this 3-year plan that the club, Wild had, and you know, he'd got 2 seasons. I thought it was only fair to really let him see out the 3 years. Unfortunately, it didn't come to that, but I think personally, the club had to, you know, they had to get it right this summer. They had to get the decisions right, otherwise there would have been a lot of uproar about, well, why have you just got rid of someone who, fair enough, we missed out the last 2 years on the playoffs, you know, by quite fine margins, especially last season. Mm-hmm. What he did give you was consecutive top 10 finishes, which is something that we hadn't had in the Football League before. So it's one of them where the club are under a massive pressure to get this decision right, and you know, so far, like I said, we can't complain about what we've seen. You know, 2 out of 2 wins, playing, you know, good attacking football, which was something that it was kind of Wild's downfall, I guess, that you know, the football wasn't attacking enough, and he didn't seem to have a plan B when plan A wasn't working. So yeah, I mean, it's all, you know, we couldn't have asked for a better start. So you know, it's obviously still early days yet, but you know, you can only go off what you've seen so far, and you know, things look good.
How hard was it to see that top 7 place slip away on the last day? Because I mean, you'd been up there pretty much all season. I mean, I suppose, is that one of the reasons maybe why Wild was let go, in terms of the fact that they felt that had been a really good opportunity and it just got out of reach?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, me personally, I'd come to terms with it by the end of the season. You know, by the last game, we had to beat, you know, already promoted Mansfield, and I know there was a lot of people saying, well, you know, Mansfield could have, you know, they might be on the beach leading up to that game and things like that, but you know, they're up there for a reason. Even their second string team, if you want to call it, were a very, very good side. And you know, watching that game, I thought they were on the beach really, because although I think it was a 1-1 draw in the end, I can't even remember now, but yeah, in my opinion, they were, you know, if they were on, you know, top form, they'd have hammered us. So, you know, I thought they were on the beach, and, you know, they still managed to beat us. But, you know, from my point of view, it was over by the Bradford game on the Tuesday night, really. Once we didn't, the games were kind of running away from us, where we, you know, we just needed a win, we just needed this, we just needed that, and those things that we needed to happen weren't happening. So I think at that point, I was, you know, as the games were running out and we didn't get that 3 points that we needed against against Bradford, I just thought this isn't happening for us, and you could, I guess you could have argued, we were at home on the last day of the season. You see stranger things happen, which you do, but I just thought it's not Barrow to have that kind of good luck at the end of the season and just creep in, and we didn't deserve it ultimately. We didn't do what we needed to set out, and it was difficult having been up there. Never mind the playoffs. We were in conversation for automatics for a lot of the season. I remember going to Wrexham at the start of this calendar year, and that being billed as a top 3 clash sort of thing. So to drop off like that was hard to see, but I wasn't as gutted. I was more gutted on the Bradford after the Bradford game than I was against Mansfield. I mean, I had to sit down on the Orchard Street end after the Mansfield game and just like, I can't believe we've done that, because I guess there was maybe the slightest bit of hope that we could have done it by then, and obviously by that game there's no more chances left. That's it, and that was it over. So yeah, I mean, it was hard to take, and I kind of fell out with football a bit over the summer because of it. But it's just you got to put it behind you now, and I wasn't looking forward to this coming season for a number of reasons. But as soon as I got into Holker Street on Saturday and saw, I hate pre-season. I hate going in, and I barely went to any games. I hate going into Holker Street and seeing it dead and stuff like that. It just doesn't get you up for it. But when I walked in on Saturday and it was a decent sized crowd, it just felt more like the real thing. And I was like, I've missed. Missing it is a stretch, but it's nice to be back, sort of thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the manager change briefly then. As you mentioned, Pete Wild's departure seemed a bit abrupt in the sense of, the way it suddenly came out. What happened there, and were Barrow fans disappointed to see him go? And then about his replacement, Steve Clements seems to be quite well thought of as a coach, but he had a tough time at Gillingham. Seems to be doing all right so far, though.
Yeah, I mean, to everyone else, it probably seemed shocked or abrupt and a shock, but if you lived in Barrow, you'll have heard the rumours 2 weeks before it was announced. It was, there was a lot of rumours going around in Barrow around that, and from pretty reliable sources, really. So again, I kind of thought it was happening, but you want to believe that it's not happening as well when it's I really liked Pete Wild. I liked his enthusiasm. I liked the way he came across, but there was limitations to him, is that potentially why he hasn't got another job right now? I'm not so sure, but yeah, it wasn't a complete shock when it was announced, but I was still pretty annoyed by it anyway. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure, but you talk as mates, who you go to football with, like who do you want, and I never know in these situations as to who. I mean, the one thing I will say is I did want Wild when when we were last looking for a new manager. He was my number one, top of my list who I wanted, because then you looked at like the other names on the list, and I won't name them, but none of them really stood out to you as inspired additions. And then Clemens seemed to come out of the blue a bit, and I don't know. You look at like the bookies list, and you can't really take much consideration into what the bookies say, can you? Because I think a lot of them just go off location as well. So no one was really thinking that a kind of southern based. I know he was born up north, but he spent most of his time in the south, or he did. Obviously, moving. He lives up north now, managing us. But he was a bit of a shock name in there. And then this is the one time you can look at the bookies list when he shortened so much and came in as favourite straight away as soon as his name entered the list. So you kind of knew that seemed significant at the time. So so he came in and I mean, he's very different to Wild. He's not got the same kind of personality, and I think he obviously is more of a coach than a manager, which is the approach that the club wanted to go for. And I guess I don't think we'll ever know, like the club will never come out and say the proper reasons as to why Wild went, but putting two and two together, it sounds like he wanted to have that managerial role rather than that slight change of head coach role where you maybe get kind of less say in in transfers. You stick to the tactics kind of side of things. So yeah, I mean, like I say, he's very different to Wild. He's a lot more reserved in kind of interviews and things like that. But if you watch him on, the touchline, he's kicking every ball with them. So, he's got it in the right places, I guess. But yeah, like I say, he's obviously very well thought of. He's got, he's going to come with decent contacts. And I remember, I didn't when I saw his name, I didn't click at first. But then when I realised, he was let go by Gillingham, and I remember reading at the time that he, a lot of Gillingham fans thought he was hard done by down there, and he wasn't backed properly. He wasn't given the chances that he needed, and they were sad to see him go. And that that kind of shows when you see the responses from Gillingham fans when we appointed him and things. They're all wishing him well and things like that. So he obviously comes with a good pedigree. The signings that he's made so far, albeit we've only had 2 competitive games out of him, look like they're pretty decent. So as I say, it's early days yet, but we couldn't ask for a better start, really.
In terms of your transfer business over the summer, you've lost a few key players. I think Whitfield and Chester were the 2 that stood out to me when I was looking at the list. But how do you feel in terms of their replacements and the additions you've added to the squad?
I think the Chester one was one that we didn't really expect to. Me personally, I didn't, and from people I talked to, we didn't expect to really get a second season out of him. To be honest, I'm surprised he stayed at this level. But first half of the season he was immense, and you could really that kind of experience that he brings to a team. Really shone through. But I think the one thing that was a bit of a question mark as when we signed him was how many games are you going to get out of him because of recent injury problems that he'd had, and you could kind of see his fitness or his maybe sharpness or match sharpness dropping as the season went on, and that's no slight on him really, because he wasn't the only one. It wasn't one player's fault why we missed out on the playoffs in the second half of the season. It was it was a collective thing. So, but there was individual mistakes that he had a tendency to, when he had the ball at his feet, dawdle on it a bit longer than he should have done, and one thing that stands out to me when he did that was the second goal at Morecambe, where he was he was wrong-footed. He got wrong-footed, lost the ball, and they went straight in and scored. And it's 2-0, before our time, and you've got a mountain to climb. Then in a game where you really fancied us, and you thought that was one of the 4 points at that point that we needed to secure playoffs, and you think that was a really good opportunity to get 3 of those points. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm surprised he went to Salford, to be honest. I mean, he strikes me as a Salford type signing, but maybe when we got him, not when they've got him, kind of thing. And then Whitfield again, he wasn't used to his capabilities. He's an immense player on his day, and he's really he causes defences nightmares the way he's so direct and runs at teams. But he didn't fit Wild's style of play at the time. He was often used as maybe a wing back or a striker, and it just wasn't. It wasn't his it wasn't his position. He's an out and out winger, and he obviously wanted to go higher and actually play in his position, and he's got that with Burton. I mean, I've not seen if he's actually played much for Burton so far this season, but sad to miss out on keeping him under a new manager who maybe would have played him to his strengths. But he, for what he did for the club and the performances he put in, he deserved to have a go a bit higher up. Football's a short career, and I don't begrudge any player really a step up in divisions. Yeah,
in terms of as a club, Barrow, do you feel like a settled EFL side now? Because I remember we spoke a couple of years ago. You were talking about how it felt so different from being in non-league football, and even like the away days and your grounds to go to. You almost feel like you're almost becoming part of the furniture now. You don't think, oh, former non-league side Barrow. It's just Barrow is an EFL side now, almost.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that now. I think, and I think it's again another one of Pete Wild's faults as to where he constantly referred to, look where we are. Look, you should be happy where you are, and things like that. And that's this little old Barrow kind of concept started to get quite draining, really, because it's almost like you should be grateful for where you are. Like, I get it to a certain point that, yeah, we are happy to be a Football League club again after so long away, but, there's only so many seasons you can start saying that before you're like, well, you are an established Football League club now, you're here, you've stayed up on on merit 4 times now, and 2 of those seasons you give the playoffs a good go, so a chance at finishing in the playoffs a good go. So I feel like we are an established football league club now, and that's a bit refreshing that the Clemens seems to buy into that, and he's not about this little old Barrow, look at me, I'm coming to take little old Barrow even higher than they already are. It's something that he's very much aware. He's joined as a established football league club now, and hopefully we kick on under him and try and go one better than we have done in the last couple of seasons.
So who are the danger men for us to watch out for in your squad this weekend? Because it's weird how it's only 2 years since we last played you, and yet your squad's changed quite a lot in that time.
Yeah, it has. I mean, danger men, as far as I'm concerned, I guess I'm taking, I hear a lot about Carlisle's weaknesses, and midfield seems to be one. So that's somewhere where, if we're going to get a result this weekend, then we need to make sure we're controlling the midfield. So you look at our star midfielders, Dean Campbell and Cian Spence, who have been excellent so far. I mean, they were excellent for the majority of last season. But again, them two were guilty a bit of dropping off, as everyone was at the end of last season. But they really were immense on Saturday, and again, in our win against Port Vale last night, Dean Campbell especially stood out to me as being one. And he's not one that's going to probably provide or score a lot of goals, but he dictates play so well, and that allows your likes of Cian Spence, who is more of a naturally attacking midfielder, to get higher up the pitch. I mean, I think Emil Aqua has the potential to cause people nightmares. Again, he's something that could possibly exploit Carlisle's defenders, who I know again have been prone to errors. This season and last season, he's a menace when he's on form. He's difficult to. You can imagine he's just be an absolute nightmare to play against because of his height, his strength, and people look at him and think he's an out-and-out target man, but he can come in off the wing and beat 2 players and curl it in the top corner as well. So I would say them 3 are your kind of danger men, but it's still Katia Coyote or Kiyate last night was immense again, and he's someone who's very much raw in his abilities, but he must be so difficult to play against because of how direct and how his trickery and things like that. He's got the potential to cause EFL defences a lot of hassle this season. Hopefully, we didn't start him on Saturday, but we did last night, and I'm hoping that he could have potentially been man of the match last night for how well he played. So I'm hoping that he starts on Saturday and gives us another glimpse of what he can do.
Let's talk quickly about the ex-Blues and ex-Bluebirds in either squad. It's down to 1 each now. I was surprised looking at this because there was about 4 or 5 in each at one point. But yeah. I think Paul Farman's the last man standing for you guys. He's been there since the start of your UFL journey, hasn't he? Pretty much. And for us, Harrison Neal, just a few of your sort of memories of Harrison when he was playing for the Bluebirds, because he's a hard worker. That's the one thing we've got from him since he's joined us. But he's probably been unlucky that we've been a struggling side that he's come into. Yeah,
I really liked Harrison Neal, and we were heavily linked. There was always heavy rumours in Barrow, after he went back to Sheffield United after his loan spell that summer, that we were going to sign for him and sign him, and ultimately he went to Stevenage. But when I heard those rumours, I was happy about that. I would have happily had him in midfield. I didn't think there was a particular, because of the signings we've made, like Campbell and Spence, I didn't think there was a crying need for him or anything. But if the transfer was on, then I was happy with that. But obviously he went up a level to test himself. Didn't quite work out for Stevenage, who were doing quite well at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously came to you guys on a permanent, isn't he? But he I mean, like I say, I liked him. He was, like you say, hard worker, good tackle on him. I guess he has his limitations of, he's not very pacey or creative, but he will sit in that, defensive midfield role and break up play, and, get balls out to the wing and things like that. So he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's just like you say. He probably is kind of struggling the fact that he's not. He's playing in a sort of a poor team. Like he has been playing in a poor team.
Low confidence team, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking last season.
Yeah,
it was a poor team he was playing in, wasn't it? So, and like you say, no confidence in the slightest. So, players are never going to benefit from that kind of environment or anything like that. So, it's a big season for him, I guess, because he's already had a very good season at League Two, and that a player of that age, you want him to kind of, I guess Sheffield United when they loaned him to Stevenage were, wanting him to progress through the leagues and maybe offload him to the highest placed club and get probably the most amount of money they could for him or whatever. But yeah, it's a big season for him, I think, to see where how well he's actually going to do at this level. Because let's say I like him, but he's going to get pelters on Saturday. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do that or anything, because he was never our player to begin with. He's not going to turn down the contract or the deal that he's got at Carlisle. But not everyone thinks that way.
I mean, to be fair, Paul Farman's going to get some stick, I'm sure, as well, from the Warwick Road. And the thing with Neil is actually, you say he's defensive midfielder. He's actually having to play a lot further forward for us at the moment because we're so short on midfielders. We've only got 2 fit out of the 6 and we play with 3. So Ben Barclay's moved up from defence into midfield and he is the defensive midfielder as a result. So it's, needs must really at the moment. I've taken a bit of your time here, Freya. I know you're on your break at work, so I'll just wrap things up quickly. First of all, hopes for the season overall and a prediction for this weekend's game.
So my hopes for the season are to, I'm a pretty pessimistic Barrow fan, to be honest, and as long as we don't go down, I'll take that. But I think, given the changes that we've made in the summer, you would like to think that we can go one better than we did, and you'd like to think hopefully we can finish in the playoffs. I'm a bit more realistic in the sense where you probably, even though they've made this such big call in the summer, I think any manager coming in like that is going to get a season's grace to consolidate, kind of, because it's not just the manager that's changed; it's a lot of the squad. So, but we have managed to keep hold of the core that we probably wanted to. So, I think you've probably got to consolidate. I hope for mid-table, and I'd be happy with that. In regards to this weekend, although we couldn't have asked for a better, 2 wins for us. 2 wins for us, 2 losses for you. It's like, you couldn't ask for a better time. But I would still go into this game on Saturday thinking that, if we'd won the last 10 games and you had lost the last 10 games 5-0, I would still think, because of our awful record in these, if you want to call them derby games, the likes of against you guys and Morecambe, where we've only won one of them, then, just because of that alone, not even taking teams' form into, consideration, I still have this horrible feeling that we're going to get done on Saturday. But I'll predict a Barrow win. I'll go 2-0 Barrow. But yeah, I'm not saying that with confidence.
Well, let's put it this way: like, if all the predictions I'd done last season would be right, we'd have won League One by a canter. So we are the ultimate optimists on our podcast. And last night, I think it was the first time all of us predicted a draw, and we ended up losing anyway. So there you go. Freya, thanks for your time, and go on. I'll wish you all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend's game.
Yeah, just not against you guys, eh?
Yeah, definitely not. Right, we'll take a short break, and we'll be back for part 2 of the preview episode. Just waiting for that to do.
Hi, it's Tom Piatic II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, we're into part 2 of this week's Brunton Bugle preview episode, looking ahead to the big game against our friends down the coast, Barrow, this weekend. Mike, it's a big one. Early kickoff. It's live on Sky Sports Plus. One of 2 games that are on at the same time from League Two. That's us against Barrow and Bromley against Wimbledon. It is. I think we said in the intro there, didn't we? It's a bigger game than probably maybe we would have liked it to have been at this stage.
Yeah.
Is it a must-win game?
Well, I mean, I've always been opposed to, if a player makes a mistake on like the last game of the season and it costs his team a playoff place, and they say, that mistake cost his team a playoff place. I've always not liked that because there's 46 games in a season. You can make a mistake in the second game that can ultimately cost your team a playoff place, you know. So, yeah, I mean, every game is massive, and I think ultimately, you know, without wanting to sound too disrespectful to Barrow, if we're aiming for promotion and we don't get 3 points from a game like Barrow at home, they're the kind of results that you root to, you know, miss out on come the end of the season.
Do you think, though, with the big injury issues we've got in midfield at the moment, and, you know, we're recording this at lunchtime on Thursday, so we don't know if a new signing's been made or not ahead of the weekend game. Do you think there's maybe a bit of mitigation there? Maybe as much the most important thing is to see the continued improved performances, because I think the performances in the first two games have been much better than pretty much all of last season. If we can see the progress and see some actual forward progress from the team, even if we drew the game, would you be happy? Not happy, but but would you be? You know, you'd understand it almost.
Maybe. I don't think it would get Simo sacked if that happened. But I think a heavy defeat, and he maybe could be. I think if not, you know, obviously next week going to MK Dons, that's going to be a tough game. So yeah, I think, you know, fail to win, and I think his days unfortunately could be numbered.
Okay, interesting. I think a narrow defeat, maybe not so much. But I agree on a heavy one. Look, maybe I'm tempted to fate, but I can't see a heavy defeat just because I think we look a lot more solid defensively this season. Take away the Gillingham game, look, chasing the game late on, you concede 2 more goals, that can happen. But yeah, let's talk about Barrow then themselves. I mean, last season, that must have been pretty soul destroying for them. To be all season, I'm pretty sure all season, weren't they?
Yeah, they spent from week 1 of the season, they were in the playoffs at the very least.
They were. I think, as Freya was saying, they were actually challenging for the top 3.
Yeah,
at the turn of the year. You know, they were. I'm just trying to. Here we go. I'm loading up the progress chart here, and
the team that sort of took their place in the playoffs, they hadn't spent a single day in the playoffs all season, and then they sneaked in on the final day.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, according to this, they did drop out and drop down a little bit at some points, but they shot right up at around about Christmas time, and they were pretty much from the 17th game onwards, they were in the top. So for basically the best part of 30 games, they were in the top 7, and then in the final day they drop out, which, you know, is pretty soul destroying, isn't it? Really, I mean,
or pretty funny, depending which way you look at it.
Yes, of course, depending on your viewpoint and all that. It costs. Did it cost Peach Wild his job? I need to call him Peach Child again. There, I've got to stop doing that because he is a bit of a child. It cost him his job. Possibly, I don't know. It's a hard one to judge because the suggestion is that he sacked or did he walk away? It doesn't seem very clear, does it?
Reading between the lines, I think that their budget was cut because they sort of failed to make the playoffs, and I think he probably wanted more money just to push them on that little bit. So I think there was a little bit of a falling out, and ultimately he walked.
I think another issue there actually for him seems to be that they've had a sporting director for a couple of years, but they've sort of decided to almost move from the head coach, so the manager role, to the head coach role, whereas the sporting director has a bit more control, I think, over bringing players in. Because their sporting director is a guy who used to be an agent called Ian Wood. He's been doing it for a couple of years, and he everything off the pitch. I think he basically responsible for sorting out new training ground and you know, things like that for them. So yeah, I wonder if maybe that lack of control in comparison he wasn't as keen on. Whereas his replacement, Stephen Clements, is quite well known for being a decent coach. You know, he's coached. I think he's done quite a lot of coaching with Steve Bruce, hasn't he? I think down the years. I think he's been one of his coaches, but he's been at a few different clubs, and yeah, I get the impression that he's much more comfortable with that, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him. Gillingham, he went in there, and I think he was given sort of a mandate to try and... Because Neil Harris's style of football wasn't the most exciting. I think his idea was you've got to play more exciting football, and to expect him to turn that around in, 6-7 months, plus get them in the playoffs, I think was probably a little bit over-ambitious from Gillingham at the time in the middle of a season. And as a result, he ended up losing his job, because I think most Gillingham fans thought maybe he's a little bit hard done by, and he could have been given a summer to actually build his own team. He's given that chance at Barrow. Looking at their transfer business, well, what's your thoughts? I mean, they've lost a few decent players. You know, your likes of Ben Whitfield, George Ray and James Chester stand out as players they've lost. Obviously, Jamie Proctor's sort of got into sort of semi-retirement, gone to Southport as well, hasn't he? Some good additions, though, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, some all right additions. There's a few sort of relatively unknown additions as well that have come from like under 23 setups. That we'll have to wait and see with them. But I mean, compared to some of the other teams that we're looking at in the preview, you know, there isn't sort of players like, oh, he's a good signing. There isn't really any of that.
I think Andy Dallas is one that stands out, as Dan will be loath for us to not mention, because you know he always bangs on about Andy Dallas and how much he loves him. He's one I think who people will probably highlight as a decent signing, and I think Conor Mahoney from Huddersfield, because he had a really good season at Gillingham last season out. I think didn't he under Clements as well, funny enough. So
and Theo Vassal as well from Salford.
Yeah. I mean Chris Stokes. Chris Stokes, is he the one who was at Cheltenham a few years back? Have I imagined that? I'm just going to double check on him at the moment. I think he was at Forest Green. Sorry, that's where he was at, not Cheltenham. He was at Morecambe and Kilmarnock. But yeah, he's a decent player, to be fair. Chris Stokes, that's not a bad addition. There's a little bit of experience added into there, isn't there? I think when you look through the squad, it's quite a tight squad. You know, there's 24 players. Sounds like a lot, but actually, when you look, there's only two goalkeepers, and it's a fairly well balanced squad. I know Dan has gone and predicted them to go down. I can't see them going down. I think they've got well enough to stay up and avoid.
Yeah, I think there's worse teams in the league.
Yeah, 100%. I can see them. To be honest, I think for them, it's a season of what's the word? Almost like finding their feet again, isn't it? Really, a bit of a season of change, isn't it? Really, and a mid-table finish might not be the worst thing in the world for them. Just and they've probably got a few more players they probably want to clear out on top of what's there. Because I mean, you look at that, and David Worrell, when they signed him, I thought that's a hell of a good signing, and I don't think he's actually done that much for them, has he?
No,
from what I can gather.
But likewise, though, I mean, like Dom Telford, when they signed him, I mean, I would imagine, purely from the outside looking in, that he's probably their highest earner, and he was an unused sub last weekend.
I'm not sure he's on as much as he was at Crawley. I think he's probably had taken a fair bit of a dip, because I think people don't realise with Dom Telford, he's actually from Burnley, isn't he?
Yeah.
Out. He's a northern lad, so Dean Campbell looked quite good when he was at Stevenage. I was quite surprised actually he went to Barrow, to be fair. I thought he might have gone a little bit higher when he did go there. I think I'm not convinced by that defence for them, though, to be honest. I know they let Rory Feely go in the summer, and then they re-signed him, didn't they? Which was a strange one, you know. So I don't know. When I look at the team or the squad, I think midfield stands out, has got some quality in there for me. You know, Campbell, Spence, and you know the likes of Guts and people like that. That's a decent midfield. You know, that can. I mean, at the moment, arguably better than our midfield with the players we've got available, isn't it? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so you say midfield, but I think, you know, goes without saying, I think Paul Farman is a very good keeper as well. I think sort of the mists of time, people don't look back on him as good as I think he actually was for Carlisle. I think he was actually a very good keeper for us.
He was a very good keeper for us, but since he's left us, has he had a good game against us? I was trying to think about this.
He does seem to make howlers every now and again, because he's always had that sort of eccentric streak in him, hasn't he?
Hyperactive, isn't he?
Yeah, but his kicking would always ease so much pressure off the defence. But up front, I mean, I've heard their fans like buzz off Emil Aqua, and so, you know, being the professional podcaster that I am, I did a bit of research. He scored 5 goals last season. and their fans really buzz off him. And I know that scoring goals isn't everything for a striker, but I mean, he's nailed on to score against us now that I've said that. But
yeah, well done, Mike. Thanks for that. Yeah, he didn't get too many goals last season. I'm just looking at his total there. Not much at all, actually, is it? I mean, he scored a fair few for Maidenhead United, didn't he? I think 13 in 45 in the season before he signed for Barrow. So yeah, I think he's a big, strong lad. Though, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
I think he drifts out wide quite a lot as well. So
Jed Garner's a decent striker as well, to be fair, and he sort of links things together in the final third a bit.
Yeah. I think, as you say there, there may be lacking a little bit in terms of attack, possibly a few of the options there, but yeah, I don't know. Opening day, they got a decent win though, didn't they, against Crewe? I think Crewe playoff finalists. So got to be pretty happy with that return to beat them. I'm looking at the team they played. I think Elliot Newby actually played in midfield that day, didn't he? I think possibly, was it a 4? I'm trying to work out what they actually played that day. 4-4-2 by the looks of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think when you look at that, you've got Farman and nets. Your two centre backs are Vassell and Canavan, which is two good centre backs to be fair. And then you've got Rory Feely playing at right back, and he's not really a right back, so that could be an option. Get Ben Williams down that way. Get John Mellish running at him. That could be really an area where we could cause a few problems. Actually, I think at the weekend.
Yeah.
Your midfield, obviously, Campbell and Spence in the middle, Newby and Mahoney on the wings, I think, and then Garner and Aqua up front. So it's very straightforward, 4-4-2. Maybe a 4. It's hard to really tell. It might be a 4-3.
A diamond, maybe.
Yeah, 4-2-3-1, something like that. I'm not going to claim to be completely au fait on all things Barrow. They actually are allowed to have 7 subs in this game, because I know there's issues in terms of, if you haven't got academy, you can only have 6, can't you? But until the window closes, you're allowed to have 7.
Oh, okay.
So that they can actually have 7 subs in this game, Barrow. I can't see them kicking on and getting a playoff spot this season, to be honest. I just think they're lacking a little bit of that quality they had last season. And like I said, I think it's a season of consolidation almost for them, of let's rebuild and see where we can go forward. I think Clement is actually quite a sensible appointment for manager. I think rather than going for the merry-go-round or going for someone who's been there, done that, getting someone in who actually is an upcoming coach, and if that's the kind of way they're looking at doing it, it's probably quite a decent move for them. Let's look through for some of the stats from things, big facts, figures and stuff like that ahead of the game. Referee for this one is Matt Corlett from Merseyside. It's his second season as an EFL referee, and last season he handed out 120 yellows and 7 red cards in 27 games. So another card-happy referee, isn't it? That said, you say card-happy. Ben Toner didn't hand out a single card on Tuesday night after we've gone on about how much he likes to give cards out. So, yeah, sometimes it just goes to show. So far this season he's taken charge of 1 game, which is Blackpool 4, Burton 0. Burton did have a man sent off after 11 minutes in that game. And the last United game he took charge of is the game you'd certainly rather forget, because you went to this one. It's a 1-0 defeat to Harrogate Town in last season's Carabao Cup first round. So,
I can't remember the referee performance that much, but generally when we lose, I think the referee's done a terrible job anyway. So
I mean, he gave us a penalty which we missed. So
yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, maybe he's not as bad as we think. But there you go. Head-to-head wise, it's a 68th meeting between the two sides, and United are well on top. 27 wins to the Bluebirds, 18, with 22 games ending in draws. Do you want some stats on recent results in our recent form against Barrow, Mike?
Go on. This is going to be good.
United actually unbeaten in their last 12 league fixtures against the Bluebirds. The last win for the Bluebirds against United came in April 1960. Andrew Jenkins had only been on the board of directors for a year at that point. That's how long ago it was. It's remarkable. 5-1, that was a win at Holker Street. The last win at Brunton Park was the same season. It was in November 1959, and it was 1-0. And actually,
for anyone, by the way, wanting to know what Holker Street looked like in 1960, just go there now.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. In fact, Barrow have just got 6 wins in their last 38 games against us. That stretches back to October 1948. You know, that was just months after the London 1948 Olympics. That's how long ago that run of form goes back to. So they've not got the great... I mean, if I'm Barrow and I'm looking at the way we started the season, this has got to be their best chance in a long time to get a decent victory against us, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know... I mean, the last time we played them at Brunton Park, I think their fans thought that they had a very good chance of winning that one because they were sort of playoffs. In fact, I think, were they even ahead of us in the league at that point? It was certainly very close.
It was fairly close, and obviously went and battered them 5-1.
Yeah.
So you don't know these things.
No, but yeah, at the same time, I think they haven't even sold 1,000 tickets, have they? Which is quite disappointing for an alleged derby match.
Yeah, early kickoff, I suppose, is an excuse, and it's on Sky and that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought they would have brought maybe a few more. There's a new feature you want to introduce at this point in the podcast, Mike, isn't there?
Well, yeah. So, we used to do a bit, didn't we, where it was like famous fans of the opposition team, and the Radio Cumbria pod did famous people from the place of the opposition team. I've got a list here. So there's Emmeline Pankhurst, Noel Gallagher, Anthony Burgess, Thomas De Quincey, Liam Gallagher, and Alan Turing, Morrissey, and David Lloyd George.
What? I see what you've done there. You're a naughty boy, Michael Booth.
They're all from the town that the opposition team comes from. What are you on about?
The opposition team trains in, at the very least, anyway.
And all the office staff work from.
Exactly.
And basically, the only thing that isn't Manchester is the stadium. That's it.
Yes. Oh, dear. I knew that one was coming, didn't we? So there you go. Any interesting fact about Manchester for us?
It was where vegetarianism was discovered, apparently.
How did you discover vegetarianism?
I don't know.
Like, is that like they're the first people to eat vegetables there or something? I don't know.
No idea.
That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Kellogg's largest factory is there.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
We'll be back again.
Yeah, they want to dunk on us for our biscuit factory. Well, you know, Kellogg's factory. How about that?
Next week, are you going to basically read out a load of stats about the borough of Merton and Wimbledon? Is that what your plan is? There you go. Right, so that's a new feature that we're going to bring in. We're going to maybe do it semi-seriously in the future. Mike can provide that one each week. There you go. Let's talk about United then, ahead of the game, Mike. Okay, so injury-wise, nothing... Well, I say nothing's changed. There's potentially another injury in there. Frustrating, this one. Georgie Kelly reported a bit of tightness in his hamstring at half-time against Stoke City when he was on the bench, so he didn't come on in the end. I think he probably would have done otherwise. I feel a bit for the lad. It's just frustrating, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm relieved that it's not his calf again.
Yeah.
I think it's a positive that it's not his calf, and you are going to receive little niggles in other places, you know, when you're coming back from that kind of... I still think he can be a massive player for us. And
I think, look, I know we signed him injured, whatever. Yeah, that happened. But actually, if you look at his record before he came to us, he wasn't as injury prone as people make out. If you actually look at it, he was on the bench for most of the season for Rotherham the season before. You know, so it's not like he's constantly got injury issues.
I think as well, you know, a few years ago he'd have played in the kind of condition that he's been in this season, but we've just been extra careful and trying to finally sort of sort these things out for him.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing we could probably do now going forward. So he's just the additional one on top of Callum Guy, who's out probably for another 6 to 8 weeks. I think there's not really been any update on that, has there, really? So maybe it's one be interesting to find out from Simo exactly what's going on with that. There's a few more players who've got about a month to 3 weeks to go, and that's Jack Robinson, Anton Dudick, Dylan McGeoch, Cameron Harper, and yeah, I think they're the ones basically, aren't they? And then you've got your 2 long-term ones of Taylor Charters and Ethan Robson, who are about 9 weeks each, we reckon. Yeah, this is the thing in terms of people talking about transfers and getting players in. The problem is, in 3 weeks' time, you have got a few players coming back, and suddenly your squad then starts to look a bit busier, and you've got to be careful not to end up overstocked, isn't it? That's one of the risks with it.
I mean, I reckon we could potentially utilise 6 months loans a little bit.
Yeah.
I think big clubs they're sort of less inclined to send out promising players for 12 months, but we could say, we'll have someone for 6 months, and if they impress, then loan them out to a club in a higher league, and it'll just plug that gap for us until January. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, well, let's talk about this one then. Formation, team selection, let's talk about that. For me, Jack Ellis, as well as he played, obviously he's going to come out for this one, and Ben Williams is going to come back into the start 11. Do you make any other changes?
Probably not. No, I don't think anyone on Tuesday did enough to really, be banging on Simo's door for a starting place. So, no, I'd probably largely keep it the same.
See, I'd slightly disagree in that I'd be tempted to put Luke Armstrong in for Aduaje, just because I think he looked a lot fresher. I think he looked a bit more up for it on Tuesday night, and I feel like it's the kind of game he'd maybe thrive off.
I just feel you need someone with pace in that forward line, especially given Barrow. I don't think have very much of it in their defence.
Does Aduaje have that much pace? I watched it on Tuesday night, and I'm like, I'm not saying he's slow, because he's certainly not slow, but he's not rapid. And I'm kind of like, is he that quick? I don't know yet, because I need to see him a bit more in full flow. We haven't really seen him in that position, but it's hard to judge. Whereas, Armstrong's got a little bit of pace on him. He's not super rapid, but he's quick and he can cover a lot of ground. So that's the one where I'd be in the balance. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't really complain if Aduaje started. And I get that maybe he wants to try and pick a settled team and try and get them into a rhythm almost, doesn't he? I think that's where he's probably thinking with that one. And like I said, when you look at it, for me, the big thing is down that left side for us. I think we can have some real joy there, because Rory Feely isn't really a right back, I don't think, and I think he's playing in that position at the moment for them. And if we can really go at him,
I think as well. I mean, he's up for every game, but I think Big John will be really up for this, because their fans hate him. I think I take some responsibility in that for the amount of fans that I sent that GIF to over the years. In fact, so when we were at Wembley, I basically didn't look at my phone all day, and I clocked that, I looked at my phone after when we were in the pub, and loads of Barrow fans had sent me that John Mellish crying GIF, when he'd scored the own goal. And I sort of had no idea, and then it was after the game, I clocked that they'd all sent me that. I was like, oh, so you're still bothered by that? To this day.
Do you know what I'm going to do after this? I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to download the somehow find a way of getting the video of the penalties from behind the goal, and I'm going to do a GIF of John telling the Stockport fans to F off, basically, and make that into a GIF. That's my plan after this, I think. Yeah. So,
because and as well with John, when we last played them, I think one of his goals, it was a good 5 yards offside for it as well.
Oh, he was miles off, wasn't he? Yeah. The first goal he scored in that 5-1 win.
Yeah.
It was an absolute mile offside. It was hilarious. But there you go. Yeah. So, what are we going for in terms of predictions for this one then?
I'm going to go for a sweaty 1-0 win, just to get things going this season, and it's got to be Big John to score.
Okay, Big John to score a 1-0 win. I'm going to go... you know what? Let's be positive. We're going to keep a clean sheet and we're going to win 2-0. I think one of the goals will come late on, but I think I'm going to go Charlie Wyke and John Mellish to score the goals in a 2-0 win. I'm going to go for Adams first, because I think we all know what's coming with Dan's prediction. So let's have Adam's prediction before we do Dan's.
Carlisle have a very good record against Barrow, and I see that continuing this weekend. I'm predicting a 2-0 victory with an early goal from Charlie Wyke. And then on the break at the end, I think Luke Armstrong will seal the deal for the Blues.
Okay, not too dissimilar to what I've said there. Fair play. Let's have Dan's prediction then, yeah.
Apologies if it's a bit noisy. I'm parked in a Tesco car park and it's absolutely lashing down. But there's only one score for me this Saturday. Carlisle 8, Barrow 0. Charlie White hat-trick, Luke Armstrong to get 1. John Mellish, Terrell Thomas, Aaron Hayden, and we'll go for Josh Vella to get a goal.
He's gone for the whole back three to score.
The funny thing is, though, is the last time he did this, like, he predicted
5-1.
8 different goal scorers, and we won 5-1, and none of his predicted goal scorers actually
That's
scored.
the mad thing, wasn't it? He went for a really stupid one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Fair play, Dan. He's put his money where his mouth is with that one. He's gone for 8-0 again. That would equal our club record if that happened. I can't see that happening. I think it's fair to say. But you never know, do you? You never know. In terms of the points total so far, we're all on 0, aren't we?
Yeah.
You're still bottom on alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Why change the habit of a lifetime, eh? I guess.
I know.
There you go. Yep, that's it for the preview show then. Thanks for joining me again, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Big thanks to our sponsors, CUOSC, for their support this season. Hugely appreciate it. Remember, if you want to get your tickets for their members meeting on Sunday, go to cuosc.org.uk. Upcoming episodes, we'll obviously have a review of the Barrow game coming this weekend. As I mentioned in the Stoke City review, MK Don's preview, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're not going to be speaking to an opposition fan because we are, if anything, a podcast of principles. We've stuck to it with the trophy and we're going to stick to it with this. So we're not going to speak to an opposition fan. We're going to do something a little bit different for that one, I think. We'll obviously then review that game, and I'm going to be speaking to someone from Tully House in the near future as well for a little special about the exhibition there. We're going to speak to one of the curators who's been responsible for putting it together, which should be a really good one too. I think that's it, Mike, isn't it? So safe journey to the game this weekend, everyone. Remember, it's a 12:30pm kickoff. Going to be there nice and early, and hopefully the Blues will get their season underway. So thanks very much for joining us, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.